Last night, there was some news that came out about who one of the judges for the dunk contest was going to be. I was very shocked and surprised by the fact that the NBA would invite him.
I think what's frustrating about that, why, it should be surprising to people, is the NBA purports itself to be this progressive league, but they're not really progressive unless it affects their bottom line.
For one, I feel outnumbered. I will just say that. I feel like this is going to be a bullying session. So I'm filing a complaint with HR and management. Yeah, that's a myth. I went to Toronto during the 2019 NBA Finals. For one, the sun doesn't come out, and for two, y'all ain't as friendly as y'all claim to be.
What's your thoughts on this NBA All-Star that's approaching us weekend?
I don't know if $20,000 is enough incentive to get guys off their seats when they like more the fashion show of sitting down and letting everybody see what they're wearing than it is that they're actually participating in it.
Ray, you killed it. Best.
I'm telling you, I can't see it enough. I can't see it enough. Welcome to Brother from Another, Jim Trotter, also known as Boo, the Boo of San Diego, Rihanna's Boo, Rihanna's Muse, maybe the subject of the next Rihanna song. Maybe that's the album title, Boo. I don't know, but I just need this. I didn't know this, Jim Trotter. How has your life changed since that moment in Glendale, Arizona? Like, there was a life before Boo and life AB after Boo. So what's it like? Give us some insight.
Man, it's been a blast. When you can go to Costco and you can have a young worker stop you and say, "Are you Boo Trotter?" Your life has changed.
Now, why did they ask? Does your card say Jim Trotter? They looked at your card and said, "Are you the same? Are you Boo Trotter?" Like, how? Or they just recognize your face? How'd that happen?
Facial recognition. I was returning the cart after unloading my car, and this young worker, as I was giving him the cart back, he said, "Are you Jim Trotter?" He goes, "I'm sorry, Boo Trotter." And I said, "Yes, thank you." I said, "I am." So it's all working, man. And then I wake up this morning and I got a picture from the office where one of my coworkers has sent me where they have changed the name on my desk. And they have covered up Jim and they have put Boo. So yes, I am officially Boo Trotter.
So listen, I'm sure Mrs. Trotter hears this.
She's loving it.
And she likes it. She likes it. Okay.
Although what she said, "I already take a backseat to the dog. Now I got to take a backseat to Rihanna." And I said, "It's all good, babe. I love you." So she's having fun with it. She and my daughter and my niece, and I think I told you this before, that's actually the reason that I took the video and went out and was seeking to get a shot of Rihanna, is because my niece is such a huge fan that I just wanted to do something for her. Little did I know I was actually going to run into Rihanna or have her drive by me like she did. But they're loving this. They're the ones who keep texting me, telling me you've gone viral and whatnot. So it's just a fun thing in our household. We're having fun with it.
I love it. And as we bring in Jason Reid, I got to point out the irony. The irony of if somebody said before the Super Bowl, Rihanna is going to call somebody Boo after the game. Will it be Patrick Mahomes? Will it be Jalen Hurts? Or will it be Jim Trotter? I think, Trotter, you could probably get like 2% of the vote. You get maybe. I don't even know if you get 2%.
Yeah, that's two more than I think I would get.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Hey, Jason Reid, last time we talked to you, we had some technical difficulties. We got some unfinished business to take care of here today. And I do want to talk about those quarterbacks. I want to talk about not just Hurts and Mahomes, but just quarterbacking in the league in general. And let's start with a place that Jim Trotter has in his feed. He mentions Lamar Jackson. And he asked the question, are the Ravens crazy enough to trade Lamar Jackson? I think it's a great question because sometimes quarterbacks, specifically black quarterbacks, can be underrated. They bring things to the table that people really don't sense until it's too late. I think Lamar Jackson may be in that category. What do you think the Ravens are going to do with him?
Well, first, should I refer to Jim as Boo Trotter or Jim Trotter? Because, I mean, you know, I know him as Jim, but the world is blowing up with Boo.
Boo. Call him Boo.
Okay, well, let me say this. Boo had some great reporting. It was a couple months ago where he's talking about he was at a Ravens game and a player had come up to him and told him that, look, Lamar's really hurt. Like, this is not something that, you know, it's just he can be on the field. He's really hurt. And, you know, I think Jim just tweeted it, but I remember when I was reading, I was thinking, well, yeah, you know, there's this impression out there among some people that this guy just doesn't want to play. Look, they tore down everything that they did offensively and built it around his skill set. And the guy became the second quarterback in NFL history to be the AP MVP unanimously. The only other guy is Tom Brady to win it unanimously. So when you look at that, it would seem to be completely insane to get rid of this guy who you have structured everything around. Now, you know, look, every team tries to build around their quarterback, especially if they have a franchise guy. But it was more so with this guy, maybe than any team in NFL history, because they literally tore down everything they did with Flacco and built a system that was going to accentuate everything he does well. So, yeah, it would be crazy, you think. But then the other side of the argument is, you know, that line about your best ability is your availability. And he has not been available the last 2 years. I still think that they're going to try to find a way to work this out in the long run. I mean, I assume he gets tagged and you go from there, but I don't see how they move away from him yet, because granted, he's had injury problems, but he's still such a dynamic player. And again, the whole thing was torn down and built around him.
You know what's fascinating, Jason, is when we talk about this availability issue, there are all these people who say you don't want to commit to a lot of guaranteed dollars to him because he's this mobile quarterback. And yet each time he's been hurt, it's been when he's in the pocket. So some of it is so incongruous, if you will, from that standpoint. But I'm on board 1,000%. No offense has been built more around one individual than the Ravens unit has around Lamar Jackson. The other thing here I would say, too, is if you are truly going to commit to him, then I think you do have to get him a couple of playmakers on the outside to balance out this offense. And I think you will see Lamar go to another level. And lastly, I'll just say this, and Jason can comment on it if he likes. It seems silly to me that you would entertain trading him simply based on money, right? And to say, as Bisciotti has said, that he's upset with the Browns that they gave Deshaun Watson that fully guaranteed $235 million deal. And a number of owners were upset with Jimmy Haslam and Dee Haslam for doing that. But if you have a talent like Lamar Jackson at the most important position on the field, just my opinion, you don't let money become the factor in making a business decision as it relates to whether you succeed or you fail on the field. And so from that standpoint, if they were to move him because of that, it would be silly to me. And it would also require a complete reboot, you know, in terms of who are you going to bring in and then try and build an offense around that person. And how long does that take if, in fact, whoever you bring in can play to the level that Lamar Jackson has shown he can play at.
Well, let me ask you guys this. All right, tell me if this is fair. And Jason, take it from here. Is it fair to say that at this time last year, there was some debate about who was a better quarterback, this time last year, Lamar Jackson or Russell Wilson, right? Like last year, Russell Wilson was very, very solidly in my top 10 quarterbacks. Didn't make it this year, top 10 quarterbacks. So Seattle trades him. They get a bunch of draft picks. They get other players. They turn it over to Geno Smith, and they make the playoffs. All right, so I agree with you, Jim. It might be a little crazy to trade Lamar Jackson, dynamic player, but what if Eric DeCosta and his crew look at it and they say, yeah, we love Lamar. It's not just money. We can get a lot of capital in return for Jackson, and we can still be a playoff team. Would that be a crazy way to go, Jason?
Well, okay. I'd like to address all of it. I'd like to start with what Jim said, because I 1,000% co-sign. You've got to get him playmakers. You've got to get him stretch the field types of guys. And they haven't done that. I mean, they had Hollywood Brown, but he is not an elite receiver. They need to go get him elite downfield targets. They got the tight end game, the mid-range game. They got that taken care of them. You know, they can do that, but they've got to get him some downfield threats if they keep him. You know, trading him based on money, you know, and Jim, I know exactly what you're saying, because I heard, you know, Bishotti made those comments. Look, your fellow owners set the market. That's the way it works, and especially with the quarterback market. So when he said those things, I'm like, well, you know, you're crying about this. This is the way it works. You can be upset about, you know, what the Hasans did, but the reality of it is that's where you have to work from. And this guy, when you measure him against Deshaun Watson does not have a unanimous AP MVP. So, you know, that is what it is. Now, in terms of the question about trading him, you see, a difficulty I have with it is that Russell Wilson, people look at him, you know, before this year, and he's won a Super Bowl. He's better in the pocket, at least in terms of, you know, what the impression is. Now, you can point to metrics that say Lamar's improved a lot in the pocket, but I think generally speaking, people think that Russell's a much better passer than Lamar. And here's the thing: you trade Lamar, the team that trades him is going to have to do exactly what the Ravens did. You're going to have to tear it down and build it exactly the same way the Ravens did. And so you don't necessarily have to do that with Russell Wilson. You can put him in different offenses and he can still succeed. But I don't know if Lamar could do the same thing.
We don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, listen, let me say this. Let me say this. I think with Sean Payton next year, you're going to see that it was more Nathaniel Hackett than it was Russell Wilson. I could be wrong, but that's my belief. But I do think that Lamar is different in that I don't know how. Look, he's a unanimous MVP. The guy has won a lot of games, but because he's been hurt the last 2 years, because you're going to have to structure the offense completely the way the Ravens did, I don't know how much you get for him. Look, I would assume you would get a good haul, whatever that it may be in terms of what everybody's thinking, in terms of, you know, what that level would be. But I don't know if you would get back a Russell Wilson haul because of the factors that we talked about, the injuries, the fact that you're going to have to tear it down. And you know what? He hasn't proven yet that he can be a consistent downfield passer. Now, I think that's a lot because of what Jim said. He hasn't had those types of targets. So there's a lot that goes into it. Bottom line is, I don't know how much you get for him.
I think he would get a nice haul if you were to try it from this standpoint. The NFL game, as you know, Jason, has transitioned more to the RPO game. And so there are more teams running those concepts now. And there are a few teams you could pick out who you could say already have some of that in place. And it would not be a dramatic change to bring in Lamar, particularly if you have some of those downfield threats that you're talking about. So I think they could get something in return. But here's always the danger for me when a team talks about trading away a quarterback. And I know Seattle proved me wrong last year with what it did. But when you trade away an established franchise quarterback, you are saying then that you believe you can go out and get someone who can play to that same level or higher. I'm not so sure you can go out and get another quarterback who is going to play to the same level or higher than Lamar Jackson. I would almost say I doubt it. I don't believe it's possible, especially if we're talking about going into the draft and finding someone of that ilk. I think it would take time to develop that player. It's not going to happen right away. And so then what is the message you are sending to the rest of your locker room? That now we are in rebuild mode and we are not chasing championships. And we know the veteran players are going to say, man, I only got so many years left. I want to go after that ring. So there is a domino effect is what I'm saying, I guess. And so I don't think it's quite as simple as, or it shouldn't be as simple as, we don't want to pay him and therefore we're gonna try and trade him. Or we don't want to pay him the contract structure that he wants and therefore we're going to try and move him.
You know what? Let me switch gears in the last few minutes here. And I want to get Jason's take on this because nothing was more impactful leading up to the Super Bowl than the moment when James Trotter quoted James Baldwin in front of the commissioner.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I was feeling it. Okay, I was feeling it. It was great. And so I think about that moment. I saw how uncomfortable the commissioner was, because people are often uncomfortable when they're asked to account for their decisions and they really don't have a defense for it, or they will try to pass the buck, which is what Roger Goodell went to immediately. Hey, I'm not over media. It's not my department. Yeah, man, you're the commissioner of the NFL. You're over it. Whether you're officially over it or not, you're over it. So I say that, and then I go on to Eric Bieniemy. And I had a conversation with one of my colleagues who happens to be white a few days ago. And to me, it was just, I just said it naturally, like, hey, Eric Bieniemy, this is a problem. This is a real issue when Shane Steichen goes from a successful season, but a Super Bowl losing one, becomes a head coach. Jonathan Gannon, successful season, Super Bowl losing one, he's a head coach. And this man right here wins his second Super Bowl title in 4 years and has to wonder, do I stay in Kansas City as an OC, or do I go somewhere else as an OC because I need that to catapult me to a head coaching position? And I complained about this, and the colleague said, could it be something other than race? I said, I don't think so. He said, it's got to be something else. So let me ask you. Jason, start with you, and then Jim, take it over. Is there anything beyond race that is keeping Eric Bieniemy from a head coaching slot?
All you have to do is look at the history of Andy Reid and his offensive coordinators. Justin KC, Matt Nagy, Doug Peterson. They had the same play calling structure, the same offensive install structure that they currently have. Both of those guys got head jobs. Matter of fact, Peterson is now on his second job. And I suspect, and I tweeted this today, if EB does leave, or if the situation changes there, Nagy will become the offensive coordinator. He's now a senior assistant quarterbacks coach. Nagy becomes the offensive coordinator. The Chiefs will go back-to-back next year, and then Nagy will get another job after winning that Super Bowl. Because the reality of it is, successful coordinators on successful teams, if they are white, they get hired as head coaches. I mean, Kevin O'Connell, he leaves Washington, he goes to the LA Rams, he's there for 1 year, doesn't call plays. Sean McVay calls the plays. He gets the Minnesota job. Raheem Morris doesn't get a job, okay? The coach in San Diego, not San Diego, Los Angeles with the Chargers. He's McVay's defensive coordinator for a year. He gets that job. Why? Because these owners look at successful coordinators under rock star coaches, and they give them jobs if they are white. You look at the situation with the Eagles. They lost the Super Bowl. Eric Bieniemy came up with those plays off of those jet sweep where the Chiefs had two uncovered wide receivers walk into the end zone with nobody 10 yards around them. That was a wrinkle that EB saw on film, and they put it in, and it worked brilliantly. Well, the guy who didn't get either one of those plays covered, the same play, just on opposite ends of the line, he gets a head job. So what are we talking? Look, I'm not one of these people who cries racism everywhere, but when it's racism, it's racism.
What do you say, Jay?
Look, I know JR's got to take off real quick, and I'll say he's absolutely right. And I will say this to you, as I've always said, it is not a league issue, it is an ownership issue. The league instituted this accelerator initiative a year ago, and what do we have since then? We have a net zero in terms of black head coaches. We have a +1 in terms of black GMs. And if you look at offensive coordinators who have been hired this offseason, I believe the number is 9, and we are 0 for 9 in those. So from that standpoint, this is an ownership issue, not a league issue, and Jason called it correctly. There is nothing different with Eric Bieniemy other than the melanin in his skin.
And Mike, can I just add one thing real quickly?
Yeah, go ahead, of course.
Yeah, Jim and I have talked about this through the years, and I remember when I first started covering the NFL, and I would talk to Jim about these things when I became a national writer. Like, I was looking at it from the perspective of the league, and Jim always made it clear to me, no, and he was right. It's a club issue. It's at the club level. So, when Commissioner Goodell talks about the things that they're doing, The reality of it is you cannot have significant change when the people who are the ones who make the decision have no true and real incentive or real fear if they don't look at all these candidates and give them a fair shot. And look, I don't know. Eric Bieniemy is now the face of the inclusive hiring problem at the club level. He's been the face of it now for the last 3-4 years. If Eric Bieniemy were white, after helping Patrick Mahomes have an MVP season in his first season as starter and winning a Super Bowl in his second season as starter, there's no way this man would not have a job. And some people want to point to EB has a past, but all those issues were 20, 30 years ago. And other coaches have had past. Like, look, this is racism, plain and simple.
Man, if you want to get into these other coaches and what's in their past, we'll be here all day. And so I always say this, if EB were to sign on to Brian Flores' lawsuit, he would have a better case than anyone as it relates to alleged discriminatory hiring practices with the NFL, period, point blank.
And I wonder if that's coming. I do wonder. He's said all the right things to this point, but I wonder if this cycle makes him reconsider. Jason Reid, outstanding as usual. I'm glad we were able to continue and complete this conversation. And you can come back anytime. You know that. Good to see you, man.
Thanks, Mike. Bye, boo.
Appreciate you, good brother.
She's like, only Rihanna can call me boo. Only Rihanna.
It's all good. It's all good.
Boo Trotter.
Hey, here's what I know. The late John Madden said that winning the Super Bowl was the highest of high. You know what? We know what that highest high feels like today. So in honor of the shirt, F them picks, we'll use them to go win more Super Bowls. Before we started this season, the AFC West said we were rebuilding. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know what rebuilding means. In our rebuilding year, we're world champs. We're world champs. I just want to let y'all know that this is just the beginning. We ain't done yet. So I'll make sure to hit y'all back next year, and I hope the crowd's the same. Appreciate y'all. Let's go, baby.
Hey, Jim, I love it. The last two parades and speechifying from the LA Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs. And what happens is not just teams that get caught up, we in the media get caught up too. So the Rams win it. They say F them picks. They go out, they acquire elite talent. They also drafted very well. I mean, Aaron Donald was drafted by the Rams. Cooper Kupp was drafted by the Rams. But they went out and they acquired some people and they did that thing. And is this a trend? We all thought, oh, the Rams are here to stay. Oh, look at it. Look at it. They got Matthew Stafford. They're going to be here for a while. They got a great young coach in Sean McVay. And we saw what happened to the Rams this year. They averaged 18 points a game. And they didn't win many games. And they had a bunch of injuries. Here we are. Fast forward to Kansas City. Travis Kelce said they're already a dynasty. Travis, it don't work like that. We've been a dynasty. What do you mean you've been a dynasty? What do you mean? What do you mean? You can't just like win a Super Bowl, win a bunch of division champs, and be like, hey, we're a dynasty. No, you're a great franchise, but you're on the cusp of a dynasty. You're on the cusp of it. Anyway, we're all saying these wonderful things about the Kansas City Chiefs.
Can I ask you this? Can I ask you this real quick? Are we getting
caught up? I'm going to ask you this. Are we getting caught up?
Well,
are we getting caught up too soon?
I'm going to answer that, but first I want to ask you, what's your definition of dynasty?
Okay, for me, a dynasty is dominance, championship dominance. Like, oh, this is great, because I haven't even thought about it. We're going to work it out. We're going to workshop this thing right here on Brother From Another. Thanks for listening, Sirius XM Channel 85. Thank you for watching Peacock TV. Anyway, and wherever you consume podcasts. Championship dominance in a short span. And dominance, I'd say 3. So I always put it at 3. 3 championships is my threat. That they're okay. Now we know you are a dynasty if you have done it. Cowboys 3-4, old school Steelers 4-6. The 49ers, they didn't have a 3-4. They have some. I think they have some back-to-backs, if I'm not mistaken. But they had like 20 years of always being in that conversation, championship level. Patriots 20 years, 3-5, 3-4.
I think your definition is spot on from this standpoint. If you look at the NFL in terms of the 3 championships in a defined period of time, the Steelers won a minimum of 3 in the 70s. Obviously, they won 4. In the 80s, you had the 49ers who won 3 in that decade. In the 90s, you had the Cowboys who won 3 in that decade. And following that, you had the Patriots who won 3, a minimum of 3, I should say, with these teams, a minimum of 3 in the 2000s. So I agree with you in that standpoint. I think 3 is a threshold to be able to call yourself a dynasty. And so I think that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs do need another one this decade to call themselves a dynasty.
So, but that being said, they need one more. Do you think that have we gone overboard with Kansas City? I'll give you my answer, but I want to know from you.
Overboard in what sense? I want to be clear.
In the sense
in what sense?
That, hey, this is just or overboard in the sense of saying it the way Patrick Mahomes did. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be around championship level for a long time. Do you agree?
Yes, I do. And I do think they're going to be around for a while, as long as Andy Reid and as long as Patrick Mahomes are there together and Brett Veach is making the moves that he has made in the personnel office. I do think that this is the beginning. Look, here's the thing we overlooked to some degree. Remember 2 years ago when they lost that Super Bowl to Tampa and everybody said, man, that offensive line was terrible. Patrick Mahomes had the worst game of his career. It was the first time in his career as a starter he had been held without a touchdown, 0 for 3 in the red zone, 3 of 13 on third down, yada, yada, yada. So what does Brett Veach do that following offseason? He remakes that offensive line on the fly. What does he do? He signs Joe Thuney in free agency. He trades for Orlando Brown Jr., and then he uses 2 draft picks, a 2nd and a 6th, to get 2 offensive linemen who started in the Super Bowl this past weekend. So they have a lot of young talent that I think people tend to overlook. Defensively, they're secondary. They've got a number of young guys in there. I believe 3 rookies who were regulars in that sort of rotation that they play with and whatnot. And on the outside, what have we seen from Patrick Mahomes? If you find some talent, he is that rising tide that raises all performance as it relates to players. So yes, I do believe that to some extent, this is the beginning. It's not the beginning to me, really. It's the continuation of what they have been doing now for some time.
So, Jim, and I think I know why you make a distinction with Kansas City compared to LA, based on what you just said. They got young talent,
yes,
and these guys aren't going anywhere, as opposed to
and they have young talent but most importantly, they have young talent at the quarterback position. Patrick Mahomes is only 27. Okay. Matthew Stafford is on his way out shortly.
So if they had a young quarterback, if Matthew Stafford had been, a 25 as opposed to 35, you'd say, okay, the Rams the same thing. But I think that'd be wrong too. I mean, maybe the Rams. I think the Rams approach is not sustainable, and and that kept a lot of people from doing it because they know it's not sustainable. But the Rams last year, it's almost as if they did business as if to say, oh, we know it's not sustainable, but it's right there. We can grab it now. Hey, we ain't trying to grab it 3 years from now. We're trying to grab it now.
Right, but I'm going to say yes and no to you on that. I do think to some degree it is sustainable if you have a young core that stays healthy. The one thing that Les Snead was so good at is that he would find talent in the middle rounds and late rounds who became key players for them in terms of that lineup. So the first round picks were not as important. And look, we all know this about the draft. It's a 50-50 proposition, even if you are picking in the top 10 often. So from that standpoint, if you can go out and get established professionals, established Pro Bowlers, all pros, I'm okay with you doing that as long as you are hitting on those mid-round and late-round picks who have to supplement that roster. The problem for me with the Rams, I think you did it in inverse order in terms of why they did not contend to defend their championships. Injuries were a key issue with them, particularly at that quarterback position. And along that offensive line, they were not as good as the year before following the retirement of Andrew Whitworth. So I'm not going to say that the Rams model or blueprint is wrong. It is just that the way that it was constructed in terms of an older quarterback who then has injuries and you don't have a backup who can step in for him, it was a problem. With Patrick Mahomes, the one thing we have seen with him, one of his greatest attributes is his availability. He does not miss time, And so therefore, when you have that ability and that intellect with Andy Reid's and Eric Bieniemy's play design and play calling, man, you got a chance in this league, particularly because of how the rules are constructed to allow offenses to succeed and passing games to succeed.
And I'm going to tell you, that's my answer. Yeah, we're not overreacting. I'm with you. We're not. I wanted to see what you had to say about it. We're not overreacting because of those elements. Mahomes, knowing who he is and being who he is. Andy Reid, Bieniemy, like you've got, the organization, you got good ownership. I mean, you got all it's boring to talk about, but it's like you got structure, you got foundational things that matter. I mean, this is not the stuff where, it's obvious. You're just driving down the street and you look at the house. Nobody's saying, man, that house got a great foundation. Like, what we got going on here? You want to see something that's like outward and obvious and tangible. Nobody cares that it's got an excellent foundation with no cracks in it. Like, okay, show me something else. But that's what Kansas City is. All those things are in place. And the things that bring down dynasties, you look at all of them. You know what has sunk all of our modern dynasties, the ones that you mentioned, except for the Steelers. This didn't sink the Steelers. The Steelers were in a pre-salary cap era. They got old. Like, there's no salary cap.
Right.
There's no real free agency. They had their group together. Lambert, Turf Toe, Terry Bradshaw got old. Franco, like those guys just they had their group together for a long time. And it just got old and it dissolved.
Absolutely.
But the thing that brings down modern dynasties is ego.
Oh, you took the words right out of my head. No question. The word right out of my head.
That's it. If everybody's good, go ahead, Jim. Yep, go ahead.
I'm gonna remind you of this. So I had a conversation with Les Snead, the Rams GM, during their Super Bowl run there. And I said, the thing that I love most about how they do business is they're unafraid to admit when they've made a mistake. So, for instance, they get rid of Jared Goff because they believe that he's not the guy who can take them to the next level. They paid all that money to Todd Gurley and to Brandon Cooks, and then they end up letting them go or trading them or whatever it may be. And they say, these guys aren't going to get us to where we want to go. How many GMs hold on to high draft picks simply because they don't want to have to admit that they were wrong or that they made a mistake? And when I asked Les about it, and I may get the title wrong here, but he referred to me the Warren Buffett book about ego being the enemy. And what he does and the way that he tries to approach it, he said, is take ego out of the equation and do what's right for the franchise. And so when you said that, you are 1,000% right. Ego on a number of different levels. And that comes from front office personnel down to the locker room and players and to coaches as well and to owners. That Dallas dynasty never should have ended with Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson, but what got in the way there? Ego got in the way because you had an owner who wanted more credit than he was being given for what happened and ultimately causes Jimmy Johnson to leave, which is unfortunate because that may have been one of the greatest groups of talent outside of, I would say, those Pittsburgh Steelers teams in the 70s.
Ooh,
that Dallas team was loaded. its second units were as good as many first units in the NFL. So
right. Amazing.
And I say that it was loaded because Barry Switzer could come in off the sideline and win a championship just by being on the sideline.
Poor Barry Switzer. Switzer. We hate on the dude. Dude win a Super Bowl title, and we hate on him. And the last thing I'll say, and then we'll switch over and talk some hoops. But last thing I'll say about this is, the average. Now we have both exceeded the average when it comes to marriage. The average in the United States is 9 years.
Ooh.
Most people stay married. Your average marriage in the United States lasts 9 years. And for a lot of folks, in year 1, in year 2, oh, it's great. It's beautiful. I love all your quirks. I love your people. I love your mama. Okay? Oh, yeah, bring your in-laws over. Okay? By year 6, year 7, like your mama come here too much. You know what? I hate when you do that. You snore. I don't like your little habits. Okay? You're nasty, but not in a good way. You know, like all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? All kinds of stuff.
No, you didn't.
And you think,
no, you didn't.
And you think,
no, you
I know.
There.
But you think on day one, everything's going to be perfect and nobody can see the pitfalls down the road. I think it's going to be great for Kansas City. I think it's going Andy Reid, Bieniemy, Patrick Mahomes. The only thing that can bring this crew down is their own egos. If they manage that, NFL's in trouble. If they manage it, watch out, NFL, because you will, Travis Kelce, to bring it back full circle, as we put the music on, you will have a dynasty. You will have a dynasty if folks don't get in the way. Let's talk some basketball coming up here. You like that nasty line, huh, Jim?
Oh, bro, you went there. I love you for it.
I don't think it's a championship hangover. It's a will to want to defend, and you're not hungover at 560 games into the season. You're a loser if you're still hungover at that point. So there's no hangover. It's the will to defend and stop and guard your man and sink and help and trap the box and rotate. Defense is all 1 to 2 steps extra. Yeah, I'm gonna take that extra step to get there. Or I'm not, and that's all will.
I'll tell you what, I've Draymond Green has said some things that I've disagreed with over the years. I got no disagreement here, Natalie. Jim Trotter, I got no disagreement with Draymond Green. Now, he's speaking truth. Now, two things can be true at once. He's speaking a universal truth about defense. Every coach in America is saying, that's right, amen. But you kind of wonder, is he also subtweeting? Okay? Who's he talking to? Who's he talking about, Natalie, when he has this comment last night? I'm just curious your take on this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, the defense hasn't been good collectively for the team. They've had periods, right, of time, but there's a lot of things that account for their defense being lacking, right? It's not a single thing. I think it starts at the top, though, with Draymond, because he is there's many leaders, right? I think the magnitude to which Dre is a leader is probably a little exaggerated in terms of just what people say. But in terms of the defense, he's their anchor, he's their quarterback, he's their free safety. He is the person, right, for defense. And for one, if people are not stepping up defensively and not doing what they're supposed to do, you normally look to a guy like Draymond, right, to kind of get things in order. Not saying that Steph and Andre and others are not, but the way in which he might go about it or what he's done in the past, he may not be able to move that way anymore in the locker room because of events that transpired, before the season started.
No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that because Professor Trotter, I know Professor Trotter in his classes would be like, no, we need specificity here. What do you mean events that have transpired?
I'm just saying
they're specific.
Yes,
what
think
happened?
Most people know there was an altercation between Dre and Jordan Poole, and he punched his teammate.
So punching his teammate has affected the Warriors' defense?
It seems convoluted, but what I'm saying is when people are not stepping up and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, right? Like different people talk to them, challenge them, whatever the case may be. And I'm not saying that that duty rests solely with Draymond, but he's a large part of the voice as someone who can do that, right? And again, I'm not in the locker room, but you just imagine that he cannot move the same way that he always did in the past, right? You know, there's, of course, Steph is going to speak up. You have Looney, Andre Iguodala's still there, but Dre's voice matters. And if he's not able to kind of be as impassioned maybe as he used to be, or, you know, that's important. And so that carries over, right? And then there's just like a lack of communication on the court. They're also relying on two-way players, like, no disrespect, like to even be a two-way player in the league is a great thing, but like you're relying on Anthony Lamb and Ty Jerome, like they don't even have like the right people on the court, right? So, you know, of course, like your defense is going to be lacking in areas. And then like Jordan Poole has become a scapegoat. He's become a scapegoat, but Jordan Poole has limitations. Yes, he has to be better, but also it's not the first time we've seen an offensive player in the NBA have limitations, and you're supposed to be able to cover for him, right? And in the past, last year, you had a GP2. They got him back, but there's some issues around that. But yeah, GP2 was on the court to cover for him. Now you have Dante, but like you have Andrew Wiggins, who hasn't been in the lineup a lot this year. He's been hurt because players like that, you need a Kuminga who probably isn't getting as much minutes as he should be. You need people to cover for Jordan, and then his defense doesn't look as bad. So some of it's roster construction. It's the rigidity and arrogance of Steve Kerr. Like he's very wedded to his system. He does not.
Trotter.
He does not like young player. He does not like playing young players. So I don't mean he dislikes them personally, but he does not like playing them. And as a result, you'll have Kuminga getting benched for an Anthony Lamb, but Kuminga's just going to do more for you, even if he's making mistakes. So it's a roster construction issue. It's stuff that's left over from the beginning of the season. And there's egos. There's guys like Clay who every 10, 15 games has to be reminded, we need you to play within the flow of the offense, because he wants to show everybody he's still Klay Thompson, right? And so when people are just trying to look for their shot on offense, they're less focused on the defense. And then that makes the team not look as good, and then that trickles down to everyone.
Trotter, what do you see?
Michael, you know how much I love me some Nat. I really do. I don't challenge her on basketball because she knows her stuff, right? She gave us so much here to unpack, and so much of it from an outsider's point of view is spot on. I think that incident between Draymond and Jordan Poole has affected this club, which is sad that you could be at this point in the season and that is still a carryover from this. If you watch Draymond all year, you can see he is not the same guy in terms of imposing his will on his teammates. It is if he understands that he is under a microscope and people are watching, and therefore, how many times have we seen him go help up an opposing player, which are things that I can't say that I saw frequently in years past. How many times have we seen him, maybe from a distance, run up to pick up a teammate, including when it's Jordan Poole specifically? Is it in the back of his mind, the cameras are on and you're working a certain way? So I have seen, for lack of a better way to say it, a kinder, gentler Draymond this year than I have seen in other years. But it also speaks to me that why is it that there has to be one person to sort of carry that weight of getting in guys' face or giving them a kick in the butt? Steph hasn't been on the floor regularly, so he can't do it from that standpoint. So then who else is on the floor is going to do it? Andre doesn't play. So as much as we respect Andre for everything he has given us over the years, you guys know this. If you're not on the court, guys will they look at you a little bit different, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
So
that's right.
So who is it?
That old head who doesn't play. So I'll give you respect for being an OG in the league, and you made the All-Star team back in the day, and you were Finals MVP. That was like 8 years ago. So but right now you're like pretty much an assistant coach.
And it's not solely on Dre. It's not that, but it's that they have different styles. Steph is going to do it in a different way. And we know it's just like parents or anything else. You need one that's the good cop, one's the bad cop. And so, like, Stephen Curry's not going to turn into a different kind of leader and be in guys' faces and doing all that. Like, we've had a few incidences of that. Like last year, we saw like a picture of him on the sidelines yelling and screaming. But what I'm saying is, like, he has a leadership style, and it is effective. Right. That's why the team is where it is. But
let me interject, and then I'll give it right back.
Sure, no, that's fine.
I'll give it right back to you, because this is what I want to say about Steph Curry's leadership style. His leadership style is playing. When Steph Curry is out there, he covers up so much BS. He covers up so many problems because he's Steph Curry, and so he just does his thing. His leadership.
But it's not just that.
It really is. I know it's not just that.
Because no, what I'm saying, I think there's a big misunderstanding of this team. I think to many on the outside, if you're not connected to the Warriors, people think Dre is like the leader because he's vocal. But no, Steph does talk. And all that stuff, it happens. What I'm saying is it's not visible. It's not in the face of others. The conversations look different. He just does it in a different way. So no, he's not going to be out there on the court yelling at guys and getting in their face. Again, you'll see it. There was an incident, I don't know, like a few weeks ago where you saw him like going at Anthony Lamb, like, come on, be smarter, like clapping at him. But that's not what he's going to do most of the time. That's just not his style.
Now, let me ask you this. So you're right. It's not Steph's style, nor should it be his style. It has to be authentic if it's going to work. And when we talk about leadership, my question is, where is Steve Kerr in this? And I'm not bagging on Steve Kerr.
I am.
But I'm just, but she is. I heard arrogance and rigidity. Those two words, arrogance and rigidity, about Steve Kerr from Nat.
But
strong.
It is your responsibility as a coach.
Yes.
To get it right with these guys defensively. Is it not? Correct. It should not fall on Draymond or anyone else, right?
I mean, it's collective. It's more than one person. And so when I say that about Steve Kerr, it also is at the top. It's with the owner getting involved in things he shouldn't be involved in and not letting the GM handle his job and build the roster correctly, right? You know, it's Steve Kerr's like a distrust of young players. Like Anthony Lamb shouldn't be playing that much, right? So you don't want to play Pat Baldwin Jr., but he's not going to make any more mistakes than Anthony Lamb, but he probably helps more. Kuminga's going to make mistakes. He's a young player. But defensively, he's going to give you...
Anthony Lamb all the time.
No, but like, defensively, Kuminga's going to give you more, right? Like, it's very clear. Like, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to, but this is the roster. This is the hand that you've been dealt. What are you going to do? Play the main guys, the 7 guys, run them into the ground? No, he's not. So you have to be less rigid. You have to you got to do it. You have to adjust. And like one thing about a coach like Pop, right? Like he has his system. And the system has never changed. But
speaking of arrogance.
But Pop adapted over the years for his players. And that's really my point where, I mean, you're making up your face, but I think he did. And I don't think. I don't want to talk about Pop. I want to ask you this before we run out of time. I want to ask you this. Sure.
Pop, stop. It's too much time on him already. I want to ask you, the Golden State Warriors have 24 games left in the regular season. Call it now. I want both of you to call it now. You both are Warriors fans. Where do they finish? And where do they finish in the regular season? And in June, are we going to be talking about them in the finals or talking about their future? So go ahead. Where do they finish regular season? What are we going to be saying in June about the Warriors?
They finished 4 through 6. They finished the top 6 seed. And, they have a chance to still contend. I think that they can make it still to the finals. So I know that Jim has a different perspective. I'll let him say his. But, no, the Warriors aren't out of it for the sheer fact of their experience. They're already champions. And also just the West. The West is so close together. Like, it's still anyone's chance.
What do you got, Jim?
No, I'm just going to say if they're fully healthy, I would never write them off. Period. Nat has worked with me to be hopeful and to remain optimistic, and I'm trying my best. But
y'all are true.
I'm also a guy who says, man, you can't just flip switches, right?
They can.
I'm gonna tell you.
So they gotta get it together here.
I'm gonna tell you why y'all trip. Y'all, both of y'all full of it. Because what you want to say, Natalie, is they going to the finals. You're like, oh, they have a chance. No, you go there and say it. You think they're going to the finals.
I have said that already here. I have said that.
What's up with that?
I'm trying to make it easier for Jim.
All right, love you guys. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see y'all tomorrow. We're gonna do a draft tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're doing a draft. Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.